Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals, GM Potter here. Welcome to my channel where I review books and bookish things. Today, since it is spooky October, I thought we would discuss witches in literature and my favorite ones. So, let's get into it. So witches have been popular in literature going back almost as far as storytelling has been a thing. Focus on the supernatural and the occult and powers. As long as women have been subjugated, there have been tales of women being in total control of themselves, in having a power within, power granted from an outside force to take control of their own destiny. Some of my favorite genres for not just horror, but for fantasy and just literature in general involve witches. I love witchy things and witchy vibes. I like magic. I'm wearing Lord of the Rings shirt today. You can tell I like magic and that I'm a huge nerd. So let's get into my favorite witches in literature. Coming in at number 3, we have Morgan Le Fay from the King Arthur books. This one is Idylls of the King by Alfred Lord Tennyson. I just love Morgan Le Fay. I love her story. I think she's fascinating as an anti-hero, as a put-upon character. I think she acts in her own self-interests, which is very interesting. It's not something, especially in a story as old as this, whenever she has the chance, she acts in her own best interests. And while her story is particularly bleak and sad, as is everyone's in the Arthurian legends, I think that especially with modern retellings, she's become a little bit of a villain, and I think that's unfair. Because she, like Arthur, like Lancelot, like Guinevere, like Gawain, who is my favorite of the knights, Gawain and the Green Knight is one of my favorite stories of all time, victims of destiny and of what has been foretold and what has to happen. And I think people forget that in the when they retell it, and they're like, oh, she's a witch, she's a bad guy, give her a hooked nose and magical powers and make her evil, when she wasn't evil so much as self-serving. Coming in at number 2, we have Moth Eater / Esther from the book Moth Eater by Linda H. Cadiga. This book I got to read as an ARC, and while there were some problems with the structure of the story, the main character of Moth Eater, of Esther, I loved it. She was, you could call her a hedge witch. She wouldn't be called a hedge witch. She's called a neighbor, which is an appellation term for magic users, for what we generally refer to now as hedge witches, which is witches who practice different things. And in natural magic, she could be called a naturopath if she was of this time period. She's very single-minded in her pursuit of what she feels is right. And nothing and no one is going to stand in the way of her doing the right thing. And I think that's really important. I think that's something worth honoring and respecting. I like her story. I like her parts of the story best, especially her parts in modern times, where she's having to deal with the modern world encroaching on the natural world, and this industrialization over naturalization, and that whole juxtaposition, that whole archetype of man versus God, nature versus industry. Like those archetypes are just beautiful, and the way she uses her magic and the magic itself is very elegant, but also very feral. Like, it has this beautiful elegance to it, but she's literally covered in bugs. And, like, I don't know about you, I love moths. I think they're gorgeous. Not just the pretty Luna moths, but even the little boring gray and brown ones that we get around here all the time. I just think they're gorgeous. I think it's so neat to have a creature that follows the moon like that. I think there's a romantic element to it. So. And number 1 is Circe, from Circe by Madeline Miller. This book, oh my goodness, this book. I've been in love with the character of Circe since the made-for-TV adaptation of The Odyssey, where she was played by Bernadette Peters. Like, I fell in love with the character then. I tracked down a copy of The Odyssey. I think I was in 4th or 5th grade. I tracked down a copy of The Odyssey and I read it, and her chapter was beautiful. That she turns these men into pigs, and it's great. And I always felt like she was done dirty, because they trespassed on her island, they took her things, they treated her badly, and she's set up like this homewrecker about it. When Odysseus is really the one who's the problem. He's actually the one who's causing problems and being a douche, honestly. And this one, Circe through Circe's eyes, is the idea of the book, and humanizing her instead of her just being a witch, a demigod witch, and using witch as shorthand for evil, and humanizing her and making her vulnerable and giving her emotions and wants and desires of her own, instead of just having her where you could replace her with a refrigerator, which is how it is in some versions of the Odyssey, where she's not really necessary to the plot, and you could replace her character with a refrigerator and it wouldn't change very much. Like, that's some modern adaptations of the Odyssey, and I don't like them. I don't like it when female characters or male characters or non-binary characters could be replaced by a fridge and nothing happens. That they're just a neutral mask for the protagonist to project their ideas and their feelings and emotions onto, for them to monologue at. It was so good. Madeline Miller is such an amazing writer. I want to read more of her stuff. Her stuff is absolutely wonderful. And I think she captures the idea of the woman in total control of herself, that WITCH acronym, the woman in total control of herself. I think she captures that idea beautifully in this book. That yes, she is still bound to the fates. Yes, she still has things going on. But as much as she can within her gilded cage, within her prison on the island, she's going to do what she does best. And that's be herself, and to care for her island, and to make her magics, and to live her life. And I just think that it was a beautiful story, and absolutely worth reading. I reviewed it previously. I'll make sure I link that somewhere. But do you like witchy books? Do you like witches? Let me know in the comments down below who your favorite book witch is. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and stay spooky. Bye.